Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. Today, I am so happy to have this person sitting across from me, whose name is Patti Milligan. I've known Patti for maybe 35-ish
Yes.
years. And some of you may have heard me talk about working for a heart surgeon who started a quick, healthy food restaurant in California. You may not remember that I mentioned there was a dietitian involved because, of course, we had to have certain nutrient values for the food. And I was a person who came from white tablecloth restaurants, and they said, you're going to have to work with this dietitian. And I thought, I can't take this job. This is just never going to work. Because I had this idea that dietitians were all like curmudgeonly. There was not going to be any fun in the food and this and that. I was so wrong. At least I got the one dietitian who was open and fun and loves food. And we have been friends ever since almost the first meeting. I might have been a little stuffy and stodgy in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I was from New York too, and this is Southern California, and
Yes.
it's a whole different vibe, and I hadn't warmed up, shall we say.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's our history, and Patti has done so many amazing things since then. I don't know how you get it all done. She's now got a PhD on top of other degrees that she's gotten. And today we're going to talk about the things that really fascinate her most. But I want you to tell people your story. So we're at Daly's, you were an RD. How did you then progress to a PhD in taste, I think it was?
Yes, it's crazy. I do have to say, and thank you for that intro, bless you. I remember picking you up from the airport in San Diego. And you jumped in the car and we had some kind of conversation. And at the end, when you were ready to depart, I simply said, "Oh, I'm still looking forward to this journey." And you turned around and looked at me and said, "Yeah, we'll see about that."
Hopefully,
So,
I've grown since then. My compassion
no,
genes work a little better now.
no, it's all from the world we come from.
Yeah.
I get it, right? Yes. So
That's funny.
I have had a bit of and I say this kindly, an ADD way of doing nutrition. That came out of hospital life. That's where I met Dr. Daly, the cardiac surgeon. And from there, doing what I did at Daly's, I say I was a spokesperson, right? Just calling the community out to come and enjoy healthy, quick food, which, by the way, I wish Daly's was around today.
I miss Daly's. We had some great food, not tooting our own horn, yes, but it truly was the combination of everything made from scratch and the idea that quick food could have that as opposed to canned and frozen and prepackaged. Nowadays, there's much more of that available, but Dr. Daly, and you didn't want that. You wanted the fresh component. And
And just, again, I want to make this very meaningful to the audience, but I will say Gregory is a star upon herself because you combined spices and nutrients and textures and flavors. I think I got the spark to do my doctorate from you, actually.
Well,
but anyway, so I left there and I always crossed over to natural food at that point. There was a chain of natural food stores, grocery stores, that was emerging in Southern California. And they wanted me to be like a canary calling out to everyone to shop our stores. So I did that for a number of years and then moved to Arizona to actually start Sprouts Farmers Market, which I would never forget. The interview was the owners were like, I go, "Why do you want me as employee number 5? They're like, "Because we're not a grocery store." I was like, that's weird. They're like, "We're on a journey to health." And so they wanted somebody to not to dictate what people ate, which I think is much of what you promote right now, but it's really to make sure that they have the resources available that if they pursue something with protein or low fat or high fat or whatever it is, they had somebody there. So it's during that time that I started working with high-level executives in a concept that maybe people resonate with, which is the athletic world. You don't find an athlete today that isn't surrounded by a posse. They have a chef, a nutritionist, a physiotherapist, massage therapist, all that. But the executives kind of left to their own chances. And some do extremely well because they had an athletic background. They got all that. But we decided to put a group together that was mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery for the executive. So I did that for a number of years. And that's where it was interesting because people would tell me, "Patti, I can do high performance nutrition at home. You know what? I can actually have the resources to do it at work now. It's when I travel that gets me messed up." So that led me to take a look at what goes on in travel, which led me to the doctorate in neuroscience of taste, which interestingly enough, no disrespect to any universities here in the US, but I really didn't want to study taste from the perspective of the food industry. I really wanted to study it from the neuroscience standpoint. So there's a place in Paris that I did, University of Sorbonne, and I partnered with Cordon Bleu. And
what a drag to have to be in Paris now and again to study, Patti, especially food and taste.
And I was so geeky. I was so paid attention to the coursework that I didn't realize when I got over there that Cordon Bleu supplied all of our meals.
Wow.
So I ate all these beautiful meals from all these Michelin chefs. It was fabulous.
Oh my gosh, it sounds
yeah.
like
So
it.
then that led me into my research, which was our saliva drops 30 to 50% when we travel. And I thought I had been in the field for 40 years. I had never heard that before. So I came back to Arizona as I put together my research and met with a Mayo Clinic doc in aeronautical medicine. And he was like, yeah, in aviation, it's always curious why there's this drop of saliva. I think it should be studied. So that's what I did. So
now you want to talk about geeks. There are two people on the planet that said, I really think we should study the drop in saliva when people travel. There are two of you, Patti, and I'm so glad you found each other.
I know, exactly. Goodness. Yeah,
Oh,
it was a crazy journey for sure. But I believe it's the link to resilience. And I hope we get into the talk, which is to leave on the back table biohacking and anti-aging and all that, and talk about vitality and resilience and all those fun words.
yeah. So there must be a correlation between the drop in saliva and our jet lag symptoms. You want to expound on that?
Sure. Yeah. And I don't want to be a teacher per se, but our nervous system has two sides to it. One we're very well aware is our fight or flight. So anytime you get an email you're not wild about, or a phone call, or you get ready to cross the street and a big old truck is coming by, you jump back. That is your nervous system protecting you. That's the fight or flight. But there's another side of nervous system, which is called, makes a good Scrabble word, parasympathetic. It is related to rest, relaxation, rejuvenation, and digestion. And all day long, we go on a little teeter-totter back and forth. Because every time you sit down to a meal, you have to invite that side of the nervous system to the table. Because the only way you digest is by having that side of the nervous system intact. So interestingly, when you travel, when you get to the airport, I'm sure right away, many of you go, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed looking at the board, finding where flights are, going through TSA, making sure that I have all my bags stuffed in and all that. You are clearly fight or flight. And then you go to get on the airline, and it is jet engine noise vibration that keeps you in that state of the nervous system of fight or flight. And so when that happens, there's three things that happen inside the body. Number one, the saliva drops. And think about it. The body is so intelligently designed. It drops the saliva because in a way, it is telling the body, okay, we have a serious situation. I don't need to be digesting food at this moment, and I don't need to be fighting microbes because I may not survive. So even though the threat is not the same as being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, our bodies see it as that. So now you're seated in a chair and you are passive, if you will. So that alone means that your cells are still busy digesting and translating the nutrients into food and producing waste product, but you're not able to release the waste product because you're seated there. Because the way that we release waste product is from our lymphatic system. And lymphatic system requires movement to lose it. So that drop in saliva just changes the whole complexity, the physiology within your body. And so when you land, part of the symptoms, if you think about I'd be curious if you have jet lag, what symptoms you have when you have it.
You know, I'm most often tired and grumpy.
Yeah.
Most of my jet lag would be East Coast to West or East Coast
Sure.
to Europe, to the UK,
Yes.
which are two different
Yes.
directions. So it's probably slightly different. But I find
Sure.
I have, when I go to the UK, which is the East, West, East to East,
Yes.
Easter,
Yes.
I need a cup of tea when I land. And
Yes.
when I'm at home, I'm not the run to the coffee pot kind of girl or the tea.
Sure.
But there's something about that. And I know when the brain is tired, it looks for sugar and all that kind of stuff. For
Sure.
energy, that could be part of it. But mostly for me, I'm tired. I don't get digestive
Yeah.
issues. I don't,
Sure.
some people do.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I call it kind of jet lag soup symptoms. Some people do get more kind of the emotional side, right? A little irritated, a little grumpy, if you will, or tired. Others get achiness or
Hmm.
digestive issues. And all of those can be traced to that staying in the fight or flight response too long. And that can be a 20-minute flight or a 20-hour
Wow.
flight or, a 6-hour flight. So interesting. I do think this is new information because I do think now, fast forward to life today, I think many of us run around in the fight or flight
Hmm.
state with all the news and everything going on with the family and all that kind of stuff. And in that, realizing you're eroding your physiology because all those symptoms typically are just signs of the body's getting worn out. It was meant for fight or flight for short bursts of
Right.
time, and it's very effective in that, but not long term.
So we need to manage our stress. Is there anything else that helps us keep our saliva at an optimal level?
Yeah, it's crazy when I realize this because the saliva production, the saliva flow, and this is a good question for a game show. How's that? We produce 2 liters of saliva every day,
What?
which translates to 2 bathtubfuls in a year.
Wow.
Crazy.
Kind
And
of
in
it's
that,
not a great image either. Thanks, Patty.
I know exactly. I hope nobody's enjoying a meal at this point. But we find out that a liter of that saliva out of the 2 liters you produce actually is recycled. So now saliva becomes a messenger to the body. And some of the thought leaders in this field call it liquid gold because it is sending messages to the body. And we can get into that later. So the things you can do, which probably many of your audience already do, is to really concentrate on belly breathing. That moves that nervous system to the side that use rest, relaxation, rejuvenation. And drinking tea does that too.
Well, that's good.
Yes. And then interesting, there's a traditional Chinese medicine way to move your tongue in your mouth and make yourself more juicy. So of late, I try to tell people 4 times a day, check in with your spit and see what side of the nervous system you're on because it's bidirectional. So you change the level of saliva flow, you affect that nervous system, but the other is reversed. If you're in that state of fight or flight, you drop your saliva. So the cool thing, you can shift your nervous system by paying attention to your spit. And we can do that exercise quickly if you want.
Well, please, we wouldn't be complete without it.
Yeah, and I can send you a YouTube video to put in the show notes if you'd like.
Sure.
But the 4 positions, and you can all do them with me. The first is the roof of the mouth. Second is below your bottom teeth. Then go to the right, go to the left. So up, down, right, left, up, down. And you do that 8 times. And I know we won't take time to do it 8 times, but I always love it. I just did a senior presentation on this.
You love your senior.
I know I do. And all the seniors in the room said, I'm juicier. And more importantly, it means you've shifted to that side of the nervous system. So, and at time during the day, you realize you're more stressed, as you say, managing the stress. Maybe you think I got to click into resilience and I got to make sure I have enough saliva.
Who knew that saliva was such an important? I think most people know saliva is important for digestion, but this bigger role that it plays in our physiology and our well-being was pretty much unknown, I think, to
I
me.
know.
Except for you and that other man.
Yeah. No, I did not know a spit about it. No pun intended. When I started studying, other than, as you say, I know it's very tied to a medical condition called dry mouth, which means that the mouth is so dry, so low saliva, that you get gingivitis. You get inflammation of the gums and teeth and all that. And then it starts the digestion process, right? So I know that's very important. But prior to that, I had no idea. And now there's just killer research being done to find biomarkers in saliva. that are correlated to disease states. And the two callouts, if I can, is Dr. David Young out of UCLA is doing an incredible study looking at, I get chills even saying it, on breast cancer. And 5 years before a mammogram would pick up breast cancer, he can detect it in saliva.
Wow.
I know,
I just got
crazy.
chills too.
I know. And then there's another researcher out of Florida who's partnered over in Singapore to a researcher studying the impact of a metabolite and the risk of dementia. And that is 7 years before you may show signs of dementia. You can find a biomarker in your saliva.
Wow.
Now, I know everyone wants to run out and buy these kits, and darn it, they're not available yet, but hang in there because they're coming around very quickly.
Wow. I want to go back a minute about the digestion and saliva before we got on mic. I mentioned to you just to check in if I was
Sure.
right. When I was young, I can't remember high school, I remember some teacher saying you should chew your food 21 times before you swallow. I have been a committed overchewer since that time. And I get made fun of, as I mentioned, because it means that I eat slowly. But it also means if I chew my food well, I'm enjoying my food. I
Yeah.
think that we're in a society that just races through meals, unless
Yes.
when you're in France, in Napa, with your friends,
Yes.
maybe having a nice leisurely dinner, that's different. But most of the
Yeah.
time, I think, so what's the importance of chewing your food? Maybe not 21 times, but thoroughly.
Yes. No, I love that. Spot on. You've always been a trailblazer, and that shows one more thing. No, interestingly enough, because of the connection to the nerves. In fact, I so believe on my tombstone, I'll say spit is it, number one, and your nervous system runs your life. Because by taking that amount of time, it's a little bit of a gross word to me, but it's meaningful. It's that you're masticating.
I
So
love
you're
that word.
combining saliva with the foodstuffs. And in it, as I said, saliva now becomes a liquid in our body that's a detective. So
Mm.
it's telling, as you're chewing and as you're producing saliva, it's cross-talking with the food to your nervous system saying, hey, we got a big bolus coming. It's got a lot of protein. So bring in those protein enzymes or carbohydrate enzymes or fat, or ooh, we're getting a good dose of magnesium. Get ready. And that communicates throughout the whole channel of the digestive tract. So it becomes vitally important. So keep your chews going. In fact, during COVID, one of the things that I was asked to do was to work with families. And maybe this will resonate too with people. So I'd have these busy moms, executive moms calling up going, I'm fine at work, truthfully. It's when I get home that it's a show. Because my kids are all irritated. They've been on Zoom all day. Now they show up at the dinner table and they are cross-talking. They're fighting. They're carrying on. And it produces so much stress. So one of the things I had them do, because part of that is that their shift of the nervous system hasn't happened. So these were little kids. They were elementary school. So we had them hum a favorite song. And by doing that, you shift into the nervous system, you produce saliva and you lower that stress level. And then we had them count chews. And another reason it does is it shifts that nervous system. So you really invite openness to the digestive tract.
Wow. All these things I didn't know. I'm going to go count my shoes. I don't think I have nearly enough. I would like
Yeah.
more shoes. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we had another collaboration after dailies, which
Yes.
was we would write an article in a major magazine called
Yeah.
Nutritional Baggage. And it was once a month, and Patti and I collaborated. And one time we collaborated on a long form article, which was on jet lag, which you'll see in a minute why this is interesting. And
Yeah.
I do have to tell them this part. In order to keep, I think we were actually keeping our saliva in top of mind by drinking raspberry beer and eating breadsticks with mayonnaise while we would write these. We would have these things Patti called a splat. We just throw all the ideas down on paper and I would write them all down. Then I'd go home. But anyway, I think raspberry beer must be instrumental in saliva production because we did a really great job. And
Yeah.
that jet lag article somehow launched you in the direction of creating a wellness remedy for jet lag many years later. that you have on the
Yes.
market now.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
And it's crazy. So in my doctorate, you're supposed to study something, and you'll appreciate this. I headed out and I marched into my French professors. I said, I know what I want to study. I want to study taste buds. I want to understand why some people invite healthy foods into their diet easily and others just struggle. I said, I believe it's about the maturation of a taste bud, because we all mature. So we grow our bones, we grow our fingernails, we have all these aspects of our body that reaches maturity, but no one has ever studied taste bud maturation. And I believed it was maybe some people had a stunted maturation process. So this one French professor said to me, sweetheart, you can study taste buds till you're blue in the face. It's not about taste buds, it's about your saliva. Oh. And he said I wouldn't be able to get approval for a pediatric study in this condensed program I was in. So then I went to jet lag and found out, what if I could reverse the saliva drop that naturally happens to our body? Would in fact it mitigate jet lag symptoms? And I'm very happy to say it does. And I did it all through foodstuffs. So it was foods that stimulated saliva, some that supported digestion, and some that supported immune system. And happily, I got a patent for it. And then I had a physician in Scottsdale that said, hey, can you make this into a capsule form? At that time, it was right before the Olympics. Now I forget, it was in China. So whatever year that was. Mm. And he said, I have many athletes going to China for the Olympics, so it can't have pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, none of that. It has to be food-based. So that's what I did. I created a chewable tablet that has essential oil, lemon, ginger, and peppermint, which right away, I'm sure you think about it, makes you juicy. And that shifts the nervous system. And then as a support for digestion, I think this is the sassy pants, I use broccoli sprouts. And so in the capsule, even if you open it up and put it in water, you taste broccoli. And interestingly, that has two nutrients that you have often talked about, glutathione and sulforaphane, that helps the cells take out the trash. And as I said way back, that when you're seated in a chair, even if it's only 20 minutes, it's enough cooling of, I say you've got to flush the toilet, because you have buildup of waste products. And that's in there. And then elderberry, which obviously is for immune. And then the pandemic happened, and we found out elderberry was very important for the respiratory tract. So those are the three ingredients in the product. And thankfully, I just sold it.
I know. Somebody came along and bought her out.
I know. I was way above my pay grade running this company. So now I'm back to spokesperson, which is fine.
I want to just mention to people who may not understand the lymphatic system.
Okay.
It doesn't work, you said, unless we move. And this is also one of the reasons that the leg muscles, working the leg muscles is so important, because it squeezes that lymphatic and causes the movement and the drainage. So if somebody sits all day at a desk, or even we're doing this podcast, it's probably going to be an hour that we're on our butts, we need to get up and move after that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. No, you're exactly right. I remember learning back in school, the lymphatic system was right next to all of our arteries, veins, and capillaries. And yet the arteries, veins, and capillaries have a pump, the heart. And the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. So it pours from our cells. We have direct tubules that go right to the lymphatic system. But then, as you say, when we sit too long, then it coagulates, if you will, builds up. And it's only in the movement, which is like kneading dough, if you lay a better explanation than that. But yeah, so you're so right. So part of the aches and pains that we all suffer from actually come from the lymph system, not from our musculature, interestingly enough. And now there's some great massage therapists that concentrate on lymph.
Do lymphatic.
Especially if you've been through a particular treatment, you can back up metabolites that way, and so they can work through them.
Tell people the name of the company where they can find out more about these. I forgot to ask you, the supplement.
Yeah. So the name is Gold Time. Be ready when you get there. And so the website is getgoldtime.com.
And that's gold, G-O-A-L, not gold. It sounded
Thank you.
I've used them when I've gone west to see you for your wedding. I came back with some. I like the chewable one because probably the lemon and mint, whatever is in there, it's it feels like it's doing good things. in there.
Yeah. The next avenue, which again, I don't know if we need a disclaimer or not, but I had a group of women that were all in their 40s and they were newly divorced and they were ready to go enjoy a glass of wine or a party out or whatever, leave their kids behind. And they had to wake up the next day and get going after that. And so they started taking Gold Time when they returned from their night out. And they said, unbelievable. It should be. So I just want to say, partner with a healthcare practitioner that knows your body well.
Correct.
It's a food-based supplement that might have uses outside of just jet lag.
And if it actually, I heard that first from Sean Richardson. When I went to see you for your wedding, he pulled me aside because you had samples there. And I said, oh, I'll take them on the plane. He said, we're all having some drinks tonight. You might want to start taking it now. I was like, okay, let's start taking it. And it did, actually. I woke up the next day and felt fine.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So we're in work to do a study that is looking at a really interesting concept, which is resilience, or if you will, the anti-aging world. What really matters most for the body is that you have heart rate variability.
I
So
love the HRV. My little Aura ring tells me my
I
HRV
know,
every day.
yes, I saw that. I know that. So I love that because that's a measurement of in between the beats and kind of a secret sauce for the body. So you can be a detective to what your own HRV rates are. And this Goal Time, we're pretty 99% sure that it shifts and improves heart rate variability.
Oh, that would be a really interesting study. And I know some people will feel that heart rate variability belongs in the biohacking world. And indeed, it is not something that you need to have in your world, if really, right? Yeah. Unless you have an idea of what optimal could look like for you, optimal vitality, right. VO2 max, all these different measurements. If that's where you're headed, then you'll want to pay attention to your HRV. But it's a little geeky at this point. I understand what you're saying, the importance of it, just that it isn't a mainstream concept right now.
Absolutely. I would say it's stuck in kind of the scientific high performance world.
High performance for sure. Athletics.
Yeah, exactly. But now, I think, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about, we're talking about athletics. So we're working out. We sometimes get a really dry mouth. We're breathing a lot. We're pounding the pavement. Our mouth is open. Is there something, should we be drinking a certain thing, electrolytes or not, or just water or what?
Yeah, that's a super good question. And interestingly enough, it's so funny because drinking water, obviously, has been told to the test of time is so good. But now we, obviously in the Western world, where it's luxurious that we have such clean water, right? So we don't have to worry that there's a microbe in there, but they cleaned the water, filtered the water so much that it's almost to our detriment. So you can drink water, and what you need is electrolyte-based water and some mineral level to it. Not to get too deep in the weeds here, but both of those, it's not the level of electrolyte or the level of mineral that makes a difference. It's the electric charge. It changes the water that you're drinking more to be body ready for the cells. Interestingly enough, I would love to know that people who have said, I work out and I'm always dry mouth, if they switched to what I call well water, as close to the well. Now, do you have a well at home?
We have well water here, yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful because you get little particulates in that water, all charged, and they make the water more body ready. So that's very important.
Now, I know we don't want to promote anybody's product, but there are so many over-the-counter powders. I've tasted a few. They're horrible to me, but some people. But what I will do if it's really hot and I'm gardening for a long time or walking, I just put a pinch of Himalayan salt and a pinch of sugar, honestly, and just that's all or sometimes I've had vitamin C powder and magnesium powder, but if I don't have that, I just at least put a little salt in it.
That is brilliant. That's one of the best things you can do. And a good squeeze of lemon, lime, or grapefruit in the water as well produces that electric charge. And this is a great work of Dr. Pollack, who talks about, now this is sounding geeky, but the water that we need to pay attention to is fourth phase water, which is water that's gel-like. And that's what these particulates do in the water. And the only thing I would say, much to what you're saying about products, and I don't have any ties to any of them, just be very concerning when you look at products at the sugar count, because you do need a little to transfer those minerals into the body, but you don't need gobs of it to make it taste good.
Yeah. And even the ones that have sugar, and I don't like stevia. My genetics actually says that I'm going to be one of those that gives me a headache. But so many of these products have either stevia or sugar alcohols, which they're a little bit better, but yeah, I like that you're saying look at the label, because you definitely don't want too much sugar, but you also may not like the taste of some of these and sugar alcohols can be hard on some people's stomachs.
Exactly. And I love that you brought it up. There isn't two of us alike. Even twins, you can find nuances of their difference. So why would externally be so different that we're not internally so different? So looking at what resonates best with you.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there are so many products and they get so well marketed, especially on Instagram and other social media TikTok. And I know it's hard to discern amongst all these products, which one does make the most sense, which one, if you like a certain brand and you feel like it works for you, that's fine. Yeah. If you're new to this idea and I'm telling you, I've tried, and some of them you can only buy like a 1-pound bag. You can't buy a little sample. So now I have pounds of things downstairs that I don't like. So start with the lemon, orange, or grapefruit. Squeeze, a little salt, and I think you'll be fine. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, those powders work very well in gardening. So maybe you can recycle them to the garden.
Really?
Yes.
Because I sometimes I have some salt. Grab some salt depending on what plant it is, but I've never used that's good to know, because we literally have like 3 bags downstairs.
Yeah. Yes, I do too. I do the same thing. I got to try everything out there on the market. There's only a handful that I really care for. So yeah.
What didn't we talk about that you want to leave people with, Patti?
Oh, what a great question. I think you and I off air talked a lot about it. My toes kind of crinkle when I hear some anti-aging or biohacking. And there's a place for it all at the table, don't get me wrong. But if you cringe at the thought of biohacking, or I'm never going to make that road because I don't run outside in the morning and sun myself naked for 20 minutes and make a collagen drink and this or that, just realize, what we're about, and this is ancient wisdom, is that all of it is all about resilience. An easy way to think of it, and this is old age talking, when you see a palm tree can survive a hurricane. And part of it is because of its resilience, its agility to handle whatever stresses are coming its way. And I think that applies for human physiology. The more resilient we become, the more you can handle one night of bad sleep, or a hard workout, or a stressful moment taking care of mom, that you're agile and you come back to that resilience. So I would love to invite that term into the plate of anti-aging and rebellious wellness, just so that you realize that you have a moment that you can make a difference. And then it all goes back to your saliva and breathing.
And when you were doing the tongue thing, I was like north, south, east, west, which is such a Chinese medicine, concept or feng shui, maybe more than Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
You've given us
that's a good point.
So many fun things we can do things, we can remember things that are going to help us, but especially setting the context of sympathetic and parasympathetic as a teeter-totter, as you said. But we really have, one of my new words, agency, as you said, over bringing mindfulness, bringing awareness to that balance. And when we're out of balance, what can we do? Because of the importance of the amount of saliva we'll have, the resilience we'll have if we learn to be in balance. So all of what you've brought us today has been really helpful. And I hope people enjoyed our stories of our history.
Yes. Thank you.
No, thank
you.
I
love the word agency. That should be tattooed on everybody's body. Let's develop agency versus aging.
We're just focusing so much on something that is de minimis. It's diminishing, right? To think about our age. This is what happens at this age. Right. There isn't just one age that things happen at, right? So let's throw that word out.
Exactly.
All right.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
so much, Ms. Milligan. We really
Sure.
appreciate
Thank
all of your
you.
expertise and everything. And
Yeah.
people, I will be back with another fabulous guest next week.